You have to be careful now.
Yeah. Tomorrow. 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 That was 6.
That was brilliant. Now we're going to see whether it will recognise our 2 voices. And I'll start with my 2 words, and then you finish with tomorrow and see if it works.
Go on then.
Right. We're going to get it to listen. L. C. It worked. That's good. I didn't think it was. U.
Beautiful.
Your turn.
Tomorrow.
I think that's absolutely
Marvellous.
brilliant.
Well done, Mac. That's a marvellous programme, and all in a little tiny box that size.
That's right. Well, you can imagine shouting, run at it, or open the door, and it would do things
switch
for
on
you.
the central heating, pull the curtains, switch on the telly, boil the kettle. Wonderful.
It is a long way from dictating a letter into it and getting it typed out on a typewriter, but that will arrive one of these days.
Well, if real speech recognition, as Max says, is still in the future, and intelligible computer speech is expensive, music from the computer is already here today. Perhaps you may have seen this little gadget. It'll play notes in different instruments. And so on. What's more, it can even remember a tune played on it and play it back to you days later. Of course, this little keyboard is on the fiddly side, but attach a full-size keyboard to a microcomputer and the result can be an instrument that is capable of even more different sounds than a synthesizer. Recording studios are now using quite large mini-computers to produce some of their special musical effects. But if you want to know how some of the stranger sounds on today's discs are produced, the answer, as often as not, is from a small computer like this.
the immediately creative sphere, what does a computer have to offer the artist?
It operates on a couple of important ways, I think. One, its use simply as a tool, like a pencil or a chisel or an airbrush or a flamethrower, whatever people want to use in their work. You can get the computer to draw pictures on a screen. Above and beyond that, though, it can actually deal with the concepts that people are themselves dealing with when they're making art, so that if somebody paints in a particular sort of way, to get the computer to help them to do it, they have to look inside their own head, as it were, to understand how they make the marks that they make.
A BBC publication entitled The Cmputer Book is available from bookshops, priced £6.75. For details of other parts of the project, including the BBC microcomputer system and BBC application software, the associated NEC correspondence course in programming, and information about courses, computer clubs, and other sources of advice in your area, please send a stamped addressed envelope at least 12 inches by 9 inches to Broadcasting Support Services, P.O. Box 7, London W3 6XJ. And please indicate clearly what information is required. Weather outlook now from Jim Bacon.
Good evening to you. Well, we've had an area of high pressure close by the country today, and that's brought dry weather to many areas and quite a bit of sunshine to some areas as well. There's the high, it's just to the southeast of us. There is actually another one forming now to the north of Britain, and the two will link up and I think dominate the weather for the next couple of days. That's to say dominate the weather except for this area of low pressure just to the southwest. And I think from time to time it'll threaten the more southwestern parts of the country as those fronts edge a little bit closer, bringing some cloudier weather with perhaps some occasional rain as well. If we look at the forecast chart for noon tomorrow, you'll see what I mean with the high to the north and east of us, and already on that chart quite a few isobars showing up there over southern and western parts, so a fair freshness to that southeasterly breeze, and the fronts certainly kept well to the west, so we needn't worry too much about those at all. And if we look at tonight, well, things very much as you'd expect for an area of high pressure. We're going to have dry weather just about everywhere now, and with clearing skies. The temperature's already started falling in a good many places, and it'll be where the winds are lightest that I think you'll find the coldest weather tonight. So in particular, parts of northern and northeastern England and also central areas of Scotland, temperatures may well fall low enough to give a touch of ground frost. Further south, perhaps a bit too much of that cloud left behind for a time to slow down that fall in temperature, and also in southwestern areas, I think there'll be a bit too much breeze as well, so no real worries about frost there. There's one other thing perhaps worth mentioning on this chart, and that is with winds picking up from the southeast, it might bring some rather misty weather to some of those eastern coasts, and in fact that's certainly going to be the case for tomorrow, because those eastern coasts of southern Scotland and northeast England you'll find turning out to be a good bit colder than they were today. Sunny weather everywhere else though, and fairly dry weather too. Temperatures easily up to 17 centigrade in a good many places. That's 63 Fahrenheit, by the way. The afternoon perhaps turning out cloudier than the morning, and in these southwestern parts perhaps it'll become more generally cloudier later on in the day. Well, that's all from me. A very good night to you.
And the time now is just 15 seconds into Tuesday morning. Radio 2 will be staying on the air, as usual, throughout the night with news summaries on the hour, and Radio 4 opens in the morning at 6 with news briefing, and the Today programme is at 6:30. And we on BBC 1 will be opening up at 9 o'clock in the morning with the latest news headlines. But now, on behalf of all of us here on BBC 1, this is Roger Maud wishing you a very good night. Good night.